Let's learn about the tarot by analyzing an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. For those who don't know, the tarot is an esoteric art that may not be for everyone, but it represents universal themes that we're all likely to experience at some point to some degree in our life's journey. Each card represents a different stage of life, different energies that we're embodying or being influenced by at a given moment, or a life lesson we're meant to learn so we can grow and further align ourselves with our life's purpose. In the tarot, the Suit of Swords correlates to air energy, which represents the mental or intellectual realm. According to a creator named The Astrology of It on YouTube, who did a great series on the stories that unfold through the major and minor arcana of the tarot, the overall moral of the Suit of Swords story is that we must discipline our mental energy and learn to channel it into directed actions that produce tangible results. The Seven of Swords is all about trickery, deception, scheming, mental manipulation, and subterfuge. Now, if you get this card in a love or a relationship or even a financial reading, that can be troubling. But there are contexts where it's a positive card because there are situations in life when our survival is on the line and our hands are tied or our oppressor has us in chains, and having a sharp wit and using strategic mental subterfuge is our only recourse for slipping out of precarious situations. In the Rider Waite deck, the Seven of Swords shows a man sneaking away from what appears to be a military camp, taking some of their military equipment with him, looking over his shoulder and smirking about slipping away unnoticed. From the most positive perspective, in my view, the Seven of Swords is about accepting that you may have gotten caught up in a precarious situation and you may be overpowered in almost every way. So you resort to the only power or resource you have left in that moment, which is the power of the mind. Oh, and I said before that the Suit of Swords in tarot correlates to air sign energy, but the Seven of Swords specifically is connected to Aquarius, which is known for unconventional, out of the box thinking. So, in season 1, episode 7 of Avatar: The Last Airbender, we see Uncle Iroh exemplifying Seven of Swords energy when he's captured by an Earth Nation army and has to use his intellect to sneakily outsmart his captors and turn the situation in his favor so he can break free. First, he pretends to be so sleepy that he dozes off and falls off his horse because he's just a tired old man with no energy left, right? Wrong, because it's really just a ploy and a sneaky way to leave his sandal behind as a breadcrumb for his nephew, Prince Zuko, to find so he can follow his trail. He uses his quick wit again to convince his captors that they have to stop and adjust his handcuffs, not because they're too tight, like one would expect a captive to say, but because they're too loose and they jangle around and bump up against his sore, achy old joints. So he needs them to make them even tighter. This turns out to be another Seven of Swords style strategy that he's using to outsmart them and escape, or at the very least, sabotage their efforts to keep him in captivity. In the end, Uncle Iroh is fighting with those same chains on his wrists and literally ends up turning the chains into weapons against his enemy. Just like the man on the Rider Waite card, who ends up not just sneaking away from enemy territory, but taking their supplies with him as well. It's true that Uncle Iroh and Prince Zuko are outnumbered in that moment, but he says, you are clearly outmatched. And they were mentally and intellectually. Again, the Seven of Swords is usually a rather negative or unfavorable card to get in a reading, but it's also a reminder that good and bad are contextual, and there are absolutely instances where being deceitful and duplicitous are warranted. And when it does support your highest good and can help you liberate yourself from the chains of your oppressor. Now, it does require immense discernment and integrity for someone to wield Seven of Swords energy without abusing it or applying it in purely self-serving, egoic contexts. But there are times when it is 100% appropriate, and liberation against an oppressor is one of those times. And that's coming from Queen Libra over here. Okay, you get no judgment from me on that. Warranted, appropriate, justified. Not guilty, Your Honor. You can find more of my esoteric media analysis on YouTube or book a personalized reading on my site, jadawater.com. Ashe.